There is a bear hiding in the oldest English poem, not a metaphor, not a symbol, a literal, shape-shifting, blood-drinking bear warrior whose story predates Beowulf by centuries, and whose shadow falls across every line of that manuscript. His name was Bodvar Bjarki, warlike little bear, and if you want to understand where Beowulf came from, you need to meet him first. So this is going to be a new format for these kinds of videos. So it's going to be all voice, no face. So let's just get on with it, shall we? So, Beowulf. Scholars have argued about the name for 200 years. If you can call anything in Anglo-Saxon studies a consensus, is that it's a kenning, a poetic riddle. Beowulf, Beowulf. What hunts bees? What raids hives and doesn't give a damn about the stings? Yep, a bear. Now, let's sail north across the grey waters to Iceland, where monks and farmers wrote down the old stories before they could rot away. There you'll find the Saga of King Hrolf Kraki, the 14th century text built on the oral traditions stretching back to the migration period, that bloody half-remembered era when the Roman Empire was a corpse and the Germanic warlords carved it to pieces. And in that saga, you'll meet Bodvar Bjarki. Bodvar, from Both, battle, Bjarki, little bear. No riddle, no kenning. The Norse didn't really bother with subtlety. His name means battle little bear. The curse. So Bodvar's father was a prince named Björn, which means bear. His mother was Bera, which means she-bear. Subtle as an axe in the skull, I guess. Björn's stepmother was a Lapis sorceress named Hvit. When the king went raiding, she made her move on the prince. He slapped her and threw her out. She struck him with a wolfskin glove and spoke the curse. You will become a cave bear, grim and savage. You will eat no food other than your own father's livestock. The cruelty wasn't the transformation, it was the awareness. Bjorn would remember being human while he tore through the herds like a grey nightmare. But curses have loopholes. At night, Bjorn would regain his form. Bera found him by his eyes. There were human eyes in a beast's skull. She followed him to his cave. They stole what time they could. When the hunters came, Bjorn told her about the ring under his shoulder, about the children she carried, and the one thing she must never do. Don't eat the bear's flesh. Now the sons. Hvit forced Bera to eat, just a few mouthfuls, but it was enough. And she had 3 sons. The first, Elk Throdi, human above the navel, elk below. Then Fora Houndsfoot, handsome, but with dog's feet. And then Bodvar Bjarki, no visible blemish, the one Bera loved most. When Bodvar learned the truth, he didn't negotiate. He didn't accept the king's offers of gold and titles. He dragged Hvit through every street in the kingdom until she stopped breathing. The saga notes most who watched thought it was only half of what she deserved. The Hall of Bones. Bodvar headed for Denmark, for King Hrolf's court at Helgegard, the most splendid hall in the north. He found a wretch called Hot cowering in a pile of bones. The king's retainers threw scraps at him during the meals. Sometimes the bones broke skin. Hot had built himself a shield wall from the refuse. Bodvar yanked him out. You and your shield wall are pathetic. He washed Hot in the lake, seated him at the benches. When the retainers threw knucklebone, Bodvar caught it and hurled it back with such force it killed them. King Hrolf didn't punish him. He recognised what he was looking at. The monster. A creature had terrorised Helgegard for 2 winters. Wings, fire, no weapon could bite it. Champions went out, none returned. On your leave, Bodvar dragged the terrified Hot into the dark, found the beast. His sword stuck in the scabbard, resisting, perhaps knowing this would count, but he drove it home under the creature's shoulder. It was in the sword's nature that it could never be drawn without causing the death of a man. Only 3 times in its owner's life could the weapon be urged to action. Then he made Hot drink the monster's blood and eat the heart. For a while, Hot was unwilling, although certainly he dared do nothing else. They wrestled. Hot discovered he'd become strong. Bodvar propped up the dead monster, and when the king called for a champion, Hot volunteered. He killed the already dead beast in front of everyone. Hrolf saw through it, honoured the transformation anyway. It seems to me that your finest achievement is that you have made Hot into another champion. He renamed the wretch Hjalti, and gave him a seat among the warriors. The bear returns. Bodvar became Hrolf's greatest champion, married the king's daughter, drove out the berserkers, urged Hrolf to reclaim his inheritance from the treacherous king Adils, but doom was already written. Hrolf's half-sister, Skuld, daughter of the elf woman, steeped in sorcery, raised an army of the living and the dead, attacking at Yule. During the battle, something impossible happened. A great bear advanced in front of King Hrolf's troop. It killed more men with its paw than any 5 champions. Blows and missiles glanced off the animal. Bodvar wasn't on the field. He sat motionless in the king's chamber while his Fjolgir, his fetch, his spirit bear, fought in his place. Then Hjalti went looking for his friend, found him sitting idle, accused him of cowardice. Bodvar rose. The bear vanished. You have not been as helpful to your king as you think. It was nearly decided which side had gained the victory. Without the bear, Skjold unleashed everything. The walking dead, a monstrous boar, magic that turned the tide. Bodvar fought anyway, hewed with both hands until his shoulders ran red. His last words were a curse to Odin, that fickle bastard who gives victory and takes it away. If someone would only point him out to me, I would squeeze him like a detestable puny mouse. He fell beside his king. It's important to understand at this point that Adil and Eglis from the Beowulf poem are kind of the same person. If you look at the poem, the Beowulf poem, between lines 2379 to 2396, you will see this passage, which effectively talks about a battle on a lake of ice, which takes place also in the Saga of King Hrolf Kraki. So there's, just more similarities between Beowulf and Bodvar Bjarki. Speaking of similarities, so let's just throw out a couple of similarities between the two. So Bodvar Bjarki, warlike little bear, and Beowulf means bear in a kenning. The origin, land of the Geats, land of the Goats. The journey, Bodvar went across to Denmark, and so did Beowulf. The monster, Bodvar kills a creature no weapon can harm. And of course, Beowulf kills Grendel, no sword can bite. And the dynasty serves the Skaldan king, Hrolf, and Beowulf serves the Scylding king, Hrofgar. And when we look at the names of both Hrolf and Hrofgar, Hrofgar is also referred to as Hror in other texts, and Hrolf is also referred to as Hrofulf in other texts. And of course, Hror is in the Saga of King Hrolf Kraki, and Hrofulf is Hrofgar's nephew in Beowulf. He appears, I think, for a tiny little bit of time in the feast after Beowulf kills Grendel's mother. Yeah. There are too many parallels for this to be just a coincidence. The stories share a common ancestor, something older than both, carried across the North Sea to the Germanic tribes who became the English and, of course, settled in Iceland. Folklorists call it the bear's son tale, a hero born of a woman and a bear. Extraordinary strength, monster in a hall, visions appear across Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Americas. And of course, there is a betrayal involved in the old bear son stories as well. But the Anglo-Saxons who composed Beowulf stripped away the explicit bear magic, the transformations, the fetch, the curses. Christianity had made shape-shifting suspect. They kept the bones and changed the flesh. What remains is a hero whose name means bear, fighting a monster in a hall, serving a Danish king, dying against a creature of fire. The bear is still there, you just have to know where to look. If you're enjoying this new look for these videos, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I want you to comment on how these videos are doing compared to where they used to be. I'm asking for validation, so please, go validate me. So why does all this matter? Beowulf survives in a single manuscript, nearly destroyed in a fire in 1731. The Saga of King Hrolf Kraki was written down centuries later, drawing on traditions that stretch back to the same dark age. Between them, they preserve fragments of a story that was old when Rome fell. Bodvar Bjarki and Beowulf aren't the same character, but they are brothers. Sons of the same narrative tradition, shaped by different cultures, preserved by a different accident of history. The bear hero crossed the North Sea with the tribes who became the English, and of course the Icelandic. Survived the conversions, survived the conquests, nearly burned in a fire at Ashburnham House, and was saved by a librarian's quick hands. He's still here, still fighting monsters in the dark. You just have to know his other names.